Furries are being slandered by the media with anti-LGBTQ+ rhetoric, but it's been happening for decades, the most famous in 2003, and has ruined the fandom's image years after. CSI Crime Scene Investigation is a CBS crime scene drama that has multiple spin-outs and heavily impacted American society. It's known to discuss controversial subjects, frequently displays blood and gore, and criticized for its questionable science. In October 2003, Fear and Loathing was released, following the death of a driver, with an investigation finding a raccoon fursuit near the road, being taken for autopsy. He discovered the fursuit was in Alcoholics Anonymous, and program intended to recover from alcoholism, knowing the fursuit was lined with latex. This is one of the many inaccuracies in CSI's portrayal of furries. They find blue fur, ipecac, a syrup used to induce vomiting to flush out ingested toxins, and civet oil, an aphrodisiac alleged to increase intimate desire. At their house, they find a lot of plushies on a bed, living alone with no relatives. They were a computer programmer, which is a true furry stereotype during this time. On the calendar, they realized they were a fictional furry convention named Plushies and Furries, or PAFCON. There, the male investigator comments,
"This is fascinating. A whole tribe of people who prefer to interact as furry animals rather than human beings."
The female investigator is weirded out, with the male investigator responding,
"It's not that weird. It's instinctual. Many Native American tribes wore entire bear skins, including the head, when they performed their war dances. They thought it made them brave."
The fan is about appreciating anthropomorphic animals, and this is looking way too deep into it. However, the male investigator does correctly state that
they're lovable.
They attend a lecture featuring a furry discussing theories, with the investigators asking furries about the suspect, the female one rudely touching an attendee's plushie. The male investigator goes to the photo stand and sees a photo with the suspect's fursuit, which they buy, before noticing two blue fursuiters. Camera technology was far more expensive and lower quality 2 decades ago. Many events have photo booths where attendees can buy photos before the rise of smartphones in the 2010s. The female investigator goes to the fursuit runway, which is likely nod to the fursuit parade. They see a blue cat and shoulder ID, but the fursuiter hisses at them and walks away. This is completely inappropriate for a fursuiter to do, even if they didn't want to break the magic. Most fursuiters would break character and ask what's going on and go with them if there was an investigation. The police also would have had to go through convention staff if they needed to interview suspects for an investigation. This is likely done to increase tension in the story. 3 fursuiters are brought together, the male investigator remarking that blue was a more popular color. While it may not be in 2003, it's become much more popular today. The cat unnecessarily cried,
"Hello, this is racial profiling?"
which is likely added to make furries look bad. The investigators ask for fur samples and to take off their heads. While the first 2 comply, the cat refuses, crying,
"You wouldn't ask a human lady to take her makeup off. If you want to talk to me, this is the me you're going to talk to."
This is likely done to add attention to the story, but it makes furries look bad, as comparing makeup in a costume head is completely ridiculous. Most fursuiters will comply with the authorities to take off their heads when asked. That's their privacy issue. The cat is interrogated, but refuses to cooperate, giving their persona name instead of a real name. They know their rights, and they
can't sequester a domestic animal without due cause.
They eventually take off their fursuit, revealing they're a male playing a female character in drag. The male investigator knows the fursuit's odor, nodding to some fursuiters' poor hygiene. The cat admitted the raccoon was
scritching
them, an old term meaning scratching someone's fursuit.
People who don't know each other can't just nuzzle and trade tummy rubs, but for animals, scritching is perfectly normal.
Even in 2003, it isn't true, as it's considered taboo to scritch strangers or fursuiters not comfortable with it. It's replaced with padding, as it's less likely to mat the fur. The fursuit is investigated, finding seen, suggesting they humped it, along with ipecac and civet oil. The female investigator king shames, while the male investigator suggested that some might prefer a fursuit intercourse over normal intercourse. They investigate the fursuit again, who admits to having a fursuit orgy, which is shown with intimate noises, admitting they can't have intercourse without a fursuit. At the hotel, a fursuiter drinks alcohol, which is discouraged as it's a diuretic, which dehydrates the body, the opposite of what fursuiters want. They present their permit and are allowed in, compensating the fursuits, noting their smell. The wolf fursuit paw had ipecac and civet oil, and the fursuiter is interviewed about it, admitting to rubbing on the cat fursuiter. The wolf wanted to get revenge on the raccoon, who they believe
all lowlifes,
because of last year's con, they
stole my girlfriend,
suggesting speciesism. He wanted to get the raccoon
sick enough so that he'd have to go home and stop cheating on my mate.
This is completely unacceptable, as liquids can ruin a fursuit, regardless of if it made them sick. The investigator also tried to tie animals' mating patterns to fursuiters' relationship, which is incredibly strange and irrelevant. The wolf became a furry by finding out what their coworker
did on the weekends, and she helped me become who I am. I always knew that I was something else, and Linda made it real.
They investigate the crash car, where they find a lamb fursuit, and the female investigators believe they knew the raccoon fursuiter they hit. They believe the fursuiter was on the road after a fight, as they had a history and know how to annoy each other, especially locked in a car. They were cheating on them, but also got sick, and she had to drive them home. The female investigator believed they were getting the fursuiter after feeling guilty about abandoning them. The valet remembers them, knowing the fursuiter vomiting, with the female driver angry, believing they were drinking alcohol. The fursuiter refuses to take off their head, asking to get out of the car to vomit, and the driver leaves them there. At the crime scene, they find a bullet, leading to someone who shot the fursuiter, mistaking them for a coyote. It's completely insane they still have a fursuit on in the wilderness when they vomited, as they're expensive and aren't easy to clean. In August, CSI producers approached Darkbox, the head of the Southern California Furry Yahoo group, inviting local furries to participate as extras in the already scripted and in-progress episode. Dark made an optimistic post to the mailing list, suggesting furries may finally contribute to accurate, positive furry portrayals. There was discussion about the positive and negative consequences the episode would bring to furries. After Dark and Kilo Fox signed a non-disclosure agreement, the producers sent a copy of the draft script to review. Dark noted the many errors and misconceptions based on MTV's Sex 2K furry episode. During a follow-up meeting with the CSI team, they described and showed real photos of furcons. Despite this, the director refused to change the story. Dark was frustrated with the impending negative consequences the episode would have on the fandom's image, being unable to change their minds. They received weird emails, and while many were supported, they cited concerns about being blacklisted for their efforts, making public live comments. The convention scene was shot in September in California, and while most furries were cautious, 10 chose to participate as extras. Others were held back at the studio gate due to alleged payroll concerns. Most of the furries were in normal clothes, occasionally wearing ears and tails, but one fursuit was featured prominently in the scene, being paid by the production company. However, the majority of fursuiters scritching each other in the hotel lobbies were paid actors in mascot costumes. Most furries agreed the number of fursuiters and the extent to which they wore them was unrealistic, especially the fur pal scene. Mr. Initial Man pointed out that a fursuit with a latex lining would be unrealistic, especially in hot Nevada. Most fursuits are aligned, with the fursuit wearing lycra with wick-away sweat. Asian Neko thought misrepresented many furry lifestyles, and many people's views on furries were tainted due to the episode. Sidedeck thought many furries didn't care about it, as you wouldn't care so much about what people thought of you if you knew how rarely they did. Sid Sobering was so bold he wanted the episode banned for defaming the furry fan and misrepresenting it so utterly. Pinky Turtle was amused by the inaccurate con schedule, knowing the lack of panels, instead named lectures, along with the orientation instead of opening ceremonies. They varied breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which no FurCon then and now has, with dinner being reserved for super sponsors due to cost. The acting was unnatural, lacking fun, humor, and geeky camaraderie. Some of their friends noted this con has the highest fursuit to non-fursuit attendance ratio of any con. It seemed to be about 2 to 1. Another furry's mother noted the show didn't do proper research as the con looked boring. They also stated FurCons couldn't afford Las Vegas, but that changed in 2022 with Sin City Mercon, which saw 815 attendees. Despite shutting down due to Orchid Bent's restructuring, in 2023, Las Vegas FurCon saw 1,483 attendees and will be back in 2024. Big Tit noted they did the research and got a lot of stuff right in the vocabulary and idea, even if they went right for the freaker aspect. Some pointed out there were a lot of female fursuiters, everyone was in shape, and he took their masks off in public. They're confused with the fur pile, knowing fursuits would get too hot. They didn't understand why they didn't give the original definition of gift, the sound of foxing between a yaff and a chuff. The furries were talking about fur piles and gifting in front of cops, confused as to why they weren't talking normally. Speciesism doesn't exist in the fandom outside of jokes. Finally, Ursalov understand why CSI took the weirdest possible angle, because a bunch of weirdos in costumes riffing around to porno mimic is way better for the rating. If they were making a show about a murder at a Star Trek convention, they'd do the same rather than argue about geek culture, because the point of a TV show is to make interesting content. However, fursuits weren't presented well, as a sick person would take off their fursuit instead of vomiting through it due to the difficulty of cleaning vomit from it. 27 million watched this episode, and while the vast majority might have not thought anything about it, a small minority would have a more negative view of the fandom. Despite this, some joined through the episode, along with the increase of references to it on Google groups. While the fandom's image has been negatively impacted as a result of the episode, along with the numerous inaccuracies that were present due to the CSI team refusing to acknowledge them, I don't believe it's the worst representation of furries in traditional media. There were far worse representations during this time, especially those portraying themselves as unbiased news. Most viewers don't go to CSI expecting unbiased info, but instead of getting lost in stories, even if they're a little exaggerated. If you want to hear about how Fox News attacks furries when they aren't before, check out this video.